Keith Simanton of IMDB, I love your Oscar predictions because you have the guts to do something that I want to do, but I haven't done, and that is put Gravity up there for Best Picture. You've got it in first place for Best Director. You've got Sandy Bullock for Best Actress. I'm loving this, but tell me your thinking.
Well, I'm thinking a bunch of things. One, it's a smash, and it seems like we get to a point, and we're getting close to that point every year, where we go, okay, here's this huge set of great films, and last year in the mix was Argo, and we'd sit there and go, Argo's a good film, very good film. It's not Best Picture, but it's a really good film. Crowd pleaser, very good. Like Ben, yay. And this year, I think that's Gravity, where everyone's going to go, yeah, but we got 12 Years a Slave, and yeah, but you got, Saving Mr. Banks, and yeah, but... And there's just this one consistent that'll move through, kind of just like King's Speech did, just like Argo did, where it's like, yeah, that's it, actually. That's part of my thinking. Then you've got Cuarón, who is a genial, wonderful guy with great films behind him, who is, took this as obviously a crazed labor of love, a misadventure, as he's called it, or a mistake, which it obviously was not. Well regarded by the DGA. I think he's a very, very, very likely best director. And I think there's one other thing. First of all, again, it's a blockbuster, so people have likely seen it, or been forced to see it, or however, seen Gravity. But 12 Years a Slave, when you're sitting at home with screeners and you're in the Academy, and you've got all those films, and you're sitting there with your spouse or significant other, and they go, what do you want to watch? And you go, what about 12 Years a Slave? I hear it's great. And they're like,
yeah, that's work. Yeah. Well, what I
And
like about your thinking,
it's a great film.
yeah, of course it is. What I like about your thinking, let me add to the whole Gravity argument here too, and that is, and I love your Argo example because those of us who discounted it early on did so because we thought it was a commercial movie, and sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes that's okay, and your Cuarón argument is really profound because we know that they picked their best pictures based on who directed them. Even if they don't nominate them, like Ben Affleck last year, that matters, and Cuarón has that art house cred. And to the success of Gravity at the box office, there is, and I got to chart this out at some point. I've got to go through the data and see if this is proven true. But oftentimes, the movies that have the highest repeat viewers, I'm talking about Slumdog Millionaire, the movies that you go back and see, Titanic, people saw 7 times, right? Yeah. Gravity has one of the highest repeat viewer rates of the year. So that when, to paint that scene you're describing in the home of the Oscar voters, what are we going to watch in terms of our screeners, Gravity or 12 Years a Slave? They may want to watch Gravity again and again, and that really argues well for it. And it has an urgent social message, but no sci-fi movie has ever won Best Picture.
No. Well, unless you count like a quarter of Argo.
That's a good point. Okay. But Sandy Bullock, now let's go to that, because normally the Babe wins this race, but we don't really have a Babe except for Adele with the unpronounceable last name from Blue is the Warmest Color. You've got her in second place.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you've seen Blue is the Warmest Color, it's the announcement of a new, I'm going to say it, Brigitte Bardot, Claudia Cardinal, there's Jean Moreau. Here is this French actress who is young and disturbingly so, who is probably going to be around for a long while if she chooses to and keeps her, and if that's part of her, part of her mindset of what she wants to do with her life. It's the announcement of a completely new, fresh actress. It's a hark back to French New Wave, and certainly the controversies are going to hurt it, but certainly people will, I think, continue to court the controversy of the pretty explicit sex scenes. But she's fascinating. She's wonderful throughout the film in all aspects. So I think she's got a very, very good shot at being nominated for Best Actress. Unseating, unfortunately, somebody had to kick off, which was Berenice Bejo for the past, La Paz, who I thought was also just phenomenal. But I think Adele's also got Blue is the Worm's Color. Also has the Black Swan titillation factor, if you will.
Sure. And there's always that Emmanuel Riva slot, the foreign actress, and last year, of course, Emmanuel Riva wasn't the Babe, so she couldn't go all the way. But Adele is. You know who? None of us have on our Best Actress list because we haven't seen the movie. But I keep hearing rumblings from people in Hollywood who allegedly have, and that is Amy Adams from American Hustle. They're saying that that she's the breakout of that movie. She certainly fits the profile of somebody overdue to win. She's been nominated 4 times, has never made it, and they're painting the setup for her is a very sexy with the boobs pressed together and all.
Yeah.
And the pictures, maybe she's the Babe. And what I'm referring to viewers of this video here is that. Generally, my observation is that the Babe wins. That there are the exceptions when Meryl Streep or Helen Mirren wins, but in general, the gal they most want to bet is the one that ends up winning. Whether it's Charlize Theron, Halle Berry, Julia Roberts, Nicole Kidman, on and on and on and on and on. But otherwise, it's all these past winners like Judi Dench and Cate Blanchett and Sandra Bullock and Emma Thompson and Meryl Streep. You don't even have Meryl Streep on your list, do you? For now?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
No, and I know that's a little. She's not on there. Although I have Julia Roberts under Best Supporting, and I still haven't seen August Osage County. Missed it in Toronto, unfortunately. But no, I think you've got again a very strong Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress categories. You know, the old saw of there aren't any good roles for women. Just not sure they can pull that out anymore. There's some great roles and great performances this year in both categories.
Now let's talk about supporting actress because I'm with you. I think Oprah Winfrey's got this in the bag, and our other pundit pals at Gold Derby say no, it's Lupita. What's her name from 12 Years a Slave? I don't buy
Lupita Nyong'o.
Thank you. Okay, I'm screwing up all these pronunciations here of the foreigners, but Oprah is special, and she's Oprah, and she's drunk in the movie, and she's chain smoking, and she's really a lead star in a supporting category here. And oftentimes we call it category fraud. I mean, if she's the supporting actress in that movie, who is she supporting? What female lead is above her? That's nonsense. But strategically, it's a good move for her. Do you think anyone else has a chance? While you've got Lupita in second place, and I think
Lupita Nyong'o. Yeah, I think Lupita Nyong'o.
You think she can? I don't. I think it's Oprah's.
I think it's Oprah's too, but I mean, they even gave her a governor's award last year. I mean, she's royalty, and she did a very moving and wonderful speech there as well. So she's a known entity. Again, you've got that issue of who will have seen 12 Years a Slave to compare it with The Butler, which is has certain feel-good aspects to it. It's kind of a Forrest Gumpian view of the civil rights movement. She's very good in it. She is good in it. There's, it's not like it's hey, you showed up in a movie, Oprah. Let's give you an award. She's awfully good at it.
And let's talk about this thing you just mentioned, which is the emotional tug of that movie. Normally, the film that wins Best Picture that sweeps the Oscars is a movie that has the warm fuzzies. That's what The King's Speech had. That's what The Artist had, Slumdog Millionaire, Shakespeare in Love. That's how Shakespeare in Love pulled off its upset. Now, there are rare exceptions to this. There are cases where, for example, The Hurt Locker or Country for Old Men, the more cynical kind of filmmaking alternative wins. But in general, the warm fuzzies is a pretty good rule, and we don't have a lot of those this year. 12 Years a Slave has an upbeat ending, but it's not. It doesn't give you that warm fuzzies. Philomena does, but I don't think it can win. I haven't seen Mr. Banks yet. Gravity kind of does in a way. At the end, it's pretty triumphant.
Without any spoilers, there's some. That's there. Without any spoilers, it's not a downbeat ending.
Yeah. So, do you think the warm fuzzies will play a role this year?
Well, I think it's going to be one of those scattershot years. I think you're talking about I feel pretty strongly that Gravity's going to continue to carry the day unless we have something pop out. You know, and that's possible, but unlikely. Um, so I think Gravity carries the day, but you're going to have I think Robert Redford gets his Lifetime Achievement Award for a movie that I actually don't care much for.
Oh, really?
Okay. And I like J.C. Chandler quite a bit. I love Margin Call. I was very frustrated with All Is Lost. Very frustrated with it for most of the length. But I think that's one of those, hey, we got to chalk this up now awards, which is, unfortunate in some regards. But it's Redford, and he is good in it, I suppose. And then Sandra Bullock as Best Actress, that's a possibility. I think it's a stronger possibility, and just kind of that momentum, that sweep that sometimes movies will have. There's also the movies that are seemingly starting to fall off, which is unfortunately, like for me, a movie that I really thought was going to be a top contender, which is Rush, seems to kind of be dwindling in momentum. I hope Daniel Bruhl still gets a Best Supporting Actor. But I think Howard's out. It's too strong a directing year. I think it's probably out for Best Picture. So
it just didn't perform at the box offices. It did okay at the box office, but it wasn't the smash that people.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, it struggled. It didn't perpetuate its own myth. By being something great at the box office. But that's going to be the 12 Years a Slave issue as well. It's open, and just how they're going to continue to roll that out, I think is going to be a very, very hard and dicey proposition.
It is. Let's go back to Robert Redford. I agree with you. I have him in my first position, and I think it's going to happen. But here's the problem I think he faces, and it's a momentum issue. I think the Critics' Awards are going to split between Chiwetel, blah, 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 from 12 Years a Slave. Thank you. And Matthew McConaughey. A lot of those Critics' Awards last year gave McConaughey an award just for Magic Mike. If they're so desperate to give him an award, they'll give it to him for that. Hell, this year he's got 12 Years a Slave, and he's got Mud, and he's got Wolf of Wall Street. He's all over the place, and I think the early momentum will go to those two guys. And then at the Golden Globes, I could see Redford winning, because those, the HFPA has an appreciation for Hollywood royalty in a way that those Too Cool for School guys in the critics groups would go. And then we go into SAG, and I don't know what happens there, probably a McConaughey or something. But Redford doesn't even have the Globe in the bag. He's got to win something notable and big before the Oscars, or he loses his momentum. And I could see him winning nothing before Oscar night, and then we're not going to have any tea leaves to know how it's going to go.
That's a good point, and I don't know what he picks up. The other thing we haven't mentioned is you've got another, and this is another kind of classic, if you want to call it a Lifetime Achievement Award, which is Bruce Dern for Nebraska. And here's this guy who has just done yeoman's work his entire career, been in some great, great films, and here's his, here it is, guys. And I think if they're in the same category, particularly in the Academy's, I think this is an astute point, Tom, which is that the HFPA is much more into the glamour and the sheen of that Hollywood, movie factory, and so Redford fits that model, whereas Bruce Dern doesn't so much. But that would work against him in AMPAS, and I think you've got a good point there. And Tom Hanks is probably, in my estimation, going to be in the Best Actor category for really a 4-minute sequence, 5-minute sequence, which is at the end of that film.
Right.
Which is in the aftermath. Yeah, which is in the aftermath. Which I think is phenomenal and brilliant acting. I mean, it's actually quite stunning. But I think that puts him down that tier a bit. And then Chiwetel Ejiofor, again, 12 Years a Slave, but he's got to have people see that film.
I know. And the movie, as you say, has to survive. It's got all the early momentum now, but that could be a disadvantage a month, 2 months, 3 months from now. Remember, they're going to be voting on Oscar nominations. It's a month and a half from now. My God,
Yeah.
is that momentum going to keep going on?
Yeah.
Captain Phillips, I'd like to see that you've got it in all the major categories there for picture, director, actor, etc. I think a lot of people are underestimating it. It's a film that I think it's at 85 million at the box office now. It's certainly going to top 100 million very soon. It's a relevant story to today. It's got, it's got Hanks. Greengrass gives it the art house cachet of a snooty director. It's got all those elements.
And I think it's also got a best supporting actor in Barkhad Abdi, who plays the lead Somali pirate, with just this sunken features, but this very fierce internal engine, and I think he's a very, very likely best supporting. I still haven't seen Dallas Buyers Club, so I haven't jumped on the Jared Leto. Oh well, I guess I have jumped on the Jared Leto train just off of the buzz from Toronto. For him,
it's very good. Here's the Jared Leto problem, and that is it's very good, and he. All the obligatory things, it's the cross-dressing, it's the drug addiction, and all that good. Straight guy playing transgender, I guess in this case, instead of gay. The problem is he needs one more scene. When you see it, tell me if you agree with this. If he just had, he's got a couple of tear-jerking scenes in there in a big, nice little finale, kind of quiet finale. But I just wanted something else. But maybe he doesn't need that because it's a weak category. Michael Fassbender, you've got him in first place. So do a lot of others. I've moved him in and out of first. I don't even know where I have him at this point. The problem with the role, I could see him winning because he's the cool dude of today, and it's a major film. But
they give it to him somewhere. They give it to it somewhere because they're not going to give it. Well, they might give it to Chiwetel Ejiofor, and they still might give it to Lupita Nyong'o. So I don't know. I think it might be one of those cases where they're like, I think best supporting, either actress or actor, goes to one of those two, Fassbender or Nyong'o, because they can give it to him there because they're going to go with Gravity.
Right.
Can't give it to you, Steve McQueen, yet for director. Wait a bit.
And you know what Fassbender is in terms of a trend, and that is the villain role keeps winning here, whether it's Javier Bardem, Heath Ledger, Christoph Waltz, the first of his wins. It fits that mold, where the old days, of course, the villains never won.
By the way, if you can explain Christoph Waltz's win from last year to me, I appreciate it.
I predicted it.
I know, but I still don't get it.
I know. I just think it was cool. That's the reason they voted for it. I don't know about the performance.
I think it's the Lee Marvin Cat Blue win. I don't know what it is.
That's good. Well, okay, he was, Lee Marvin playing a split personality. He played two roles, and he was drunk. And
I think his horse. I believe he even said, I think his horse won the Academy Award for him.
Yeah.
What do you think about Harrison Ford for 42? I
haven't seen it. Tell me about that.
Well, he plays Brant Trickey, who is the manager who brings Jackie Robinson into the club, and he's got eyebrows that look like he borrowed them from some crazed German scientist, and he's not very Harrison Ford, which I think is all to the good. I've just heard a lot about it being kind of its time. To get him back in there again. I don't know. It's a strong year for best supporting. So that might be there. He might be there. He might not.
Switching over. Cate Blanchett was leading the best actress race early on before Sandra Bullock got so strong. She's overdue to win in the lead race, isn't she?
Well, probably, yeah. Whether this is her, she's again. You think about someone like Amy Adams, if Amy Adams comes back in and storms this thing again, and she's got 4 nominations. I mean, that's tied with some of the greats of all time. If she comes back in, you look at someone like Blanchett and go, okay, well, she's got to be in there, and she's got to be in the top finalists. But does she win? I don't think so. Blue Jasmine performed, kind of classic Woody Allen. as far as box office. They've got to have people see it. I think she's nominated, but I don't think she wins.
Okay, we're having a few production problems here, an echo in this recording, so let's wrap it up here and pick this up again in a week or two as the Derby unfolds. We know it does, up, down, and spins around. Thanks, Keith.
Bye, Tom. Always good to talk to you.